This is the Apple Watch Ultra 3, and Apple are claiming that the battery is going to last up to 42 hours with normal usage, but are these ambitious claims actually true, or are things a little bit more complicated than that? The truth is, the battery life is actually quite disappointing on some fronts, but also pretty good on others, but only if you know about this one crucial feature that you must turn off to get your battery lasting as long as it should do. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. With the default always on display active, the battery life is barely okay. In my real world scenarios, which included an evening in the studio, bit of sleep tracking, and a morning of normal use, I was lucky to hit around the 35-hour mark. Frankly, for the price, that actually puts the Ultra 3 towards the bottom of the list for battery efficiency with always on display active. But when you go ahead and turn off that power hungry always on display, the story completely changes. Suddenly you're looking at up to 3 days of battery life, a figure that actually exceeds Apple's claims. And on top of that, you can go ahead and push it even more with low power mode. There's also another redeeming quality, and that's charging speeds. Thankfully, Apple have absolutely crushed it here. The Ultra 3 can charge a 0 to 80% in just 45 minutes, and what's even better, a quick 15-minute charge with a 20-watt power brick will give you up to 12 hours of battery. That's seriously impressive and roughly twice as fast as its closest competitor, the Galaxy Watch Ultra. So as long as you find 15 minutes or so in the morning to pop it on its charger, the battery life is fine, but not much more than that. It is, however, a pretty significant increase over the Apple Watch Ultra 2. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 was stated for just 36 hours of battery life, which for Apple Watch Ultra 3 owners is going to feel like quite a nice upgrade. Something else that might drain your battery life is the brand new satellite feature, but depending on where you live in the world, you might not actually be able to use it. So who does actually get access to this? Right now, SOS via satellite is actually only available in 17 different countries, and full satellite messaging is just limited to 3 countries: the US, Canada, and Mexico. That's it, and if you're anywhere else, you might just be paying for hardware and software that you might not ever get access to. And even if you are in a supported region, it does get a little bit more confusing. The SOS feature will work straight out of the box with one big caveat: features like Find My via satellite and then messaging via satellite do not work until you manually set them up and link them to a compatible plan. And even then, if you want to be sending SMS or even media messages, you must be connected to your iPhone still. It starts to feel a little bit messy, especially for a watch at this price point. Once you do look past these limitations though, this is where the Ultra 3 really starts to feel like an ultra smartwatch for me. In an emergency, you can send your location or even call for help without your phone or without LTE. There are still further limitations though. For example, Find My only pings your location every 15 minutes instead of being a live tracking type deal, but for the sake of safety, I still do appreciate the feature. So overall, you could say that the feature's life-saving for the small percentage of people who will ever actually get to use it, God forbid. And I genuinely do like that Apple have added it in. I just wish that the global availability matched the ambition here, because there's a lot of people who are going to be paying for this feature and they simply can't use it. But enough about limitations now, because there is one thing that Apple have absolutely nailed on the Apple Watch Ultra 3, and that is personalization, which for a lot of us is the most fun part about owning a smartwatch. So let's talk about the watch faces and strap selections. I'm genuinely loving the new WatchOS 26 faces, especially that new Flow watch face. That's definitely a favorite of mine. It just pairs with absolutely anything. You can dial in these incredibly specific color hues, the animations are smooth, and even the always on display looks brilliant in my eyes. And despite being animated, Flow doesn't actually seem to use a huge amount of battery life, likely because it's been so well optimized for the Apple Watch Ultra 3. That being said, if you did really want to maximize your battery life, the new Waypoint watch face is also a really nice one to check out. It's clean, it's simple, and paired with the OLED display, it draws the least power out of everything that I've tested. Watch faces aside, you've got your watch straps, and I've got to say I've built up a pretty ridiculous collection at this point. Whilst Apple's own bands are pretty solid, I actually think the third-party straps are just as good, if not better, in some scenarios. And a really good example of this is the Alpine loop band that came with my Ultra 3. It's good, but this elastic band from Robust Goods is genuinely more comfortable, and it feels a little bit more secure on my wrist, even during runs and workouts. And then another favorite of mine is the Titanium Band Pro. Now this one just matches the natural titanium color of my Watch Ultra 3 perfectly. It's real titanium, and also it doesn't scratch easily, which I really like. That all being said, you do have to be really careful with third-party watch straps. You want to make sure that they fit correctly and they're good quality. So I've left a couple of links in the pinned comment to watch straps that I've actually tried and tested and know are good quality. Going back to watch faces for a second though, a really good point to make is beyond the stock watch faces, the third-party watch face market has actually come along quite a nice way. Apps like Facer run noticeably smoother on the Watch Ultra 3 now. The battery drain is also much lower than it used to be, and always-on transitions look far less janky. They're finally at a point where I actually think they're worth using again, and I'll show you where to get some really nice watch faces at the end of the video. Anyway, whilst we're on the topic of personalization, one of the other things that makes the Watch Ultra 3 feel so premium to me is WatchOS. The latest version, WatchOS 26, is honestly one of the most visually impressive parts of the whole experience, and actually probably one of the most visually impressive UIs I've ever seen on a smartwatch. Everything just feels super fluid, the animations are smooth, the UI looks stunning, and those subtle haptics that you also get make every interaction feel really intentional and high-end. Performance-wise, it's been pretty flawless. There's been no lag, there's been no stutters, all my apps open in the blink of an eye, and overall it just feels incredibly polished. Apple's refinement over the years is really starting to show here. It feels like a genuine step forward, but most importantly, very familiar. It's definitely not perfect though, and my one gripe is that WatchOS feels very design first. The new liquid glass aesthetic looks absolutely gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but it also makes navigation a little bit tricky at first. It's not the most practical layout, and it definitely takes some time to instinctively know where everything is. But once you do, it does grow on you fast, and honestly, even though it does lean more into beauty than pure practicality, it is still the best looking smartwatch operating system that I've ever used, and paired with the premium design of the Ultra 3, it just makes it feel like a really polished and well-refined product. Outside of the core software, the Apple Watch Ultra 3 genuinely shines in the app ecosystem and day-to-day connectivity. This is still where Apple dominates. If you use popular iPhone apps, whether that's fitness, banking, music, reminders, navigation, or just smart home stuff, there's always either a proper watch app or at the very least, seamless notifications that just work. And what's really surprised me is just how well non-Apple apps have worked with the Apple Watch Ultra 3. For example, Google Home notifications popped up instantly with no extra setup beyond signing in on my iPhone. Doorbell alerts, camera motion, that kind of thing. You can't preview the doorbell's feed on the watch, but you can control things like your TV from SmartThings and even your washing machine. Making and receiving calls and texts on the Apple Watch Ultra 3 has also felt really natural and really easy to use. And then text through iMessage or SMS send without any fuss. It's fast, it's reliable, and exactly what you'd expect from a watch at this price point. And I also just want to point out the haptics once again. When you do get a phone call coming through, I just really think it's been tuned perfectly. It's not too strong, but you definitely notice it. Overall though, the Ultra 3 handles apps and notifications in a way that just feels really easy. There's no constant tinkering, there's no weird pairing issues, and no random "this app doesn't want to talk to your watch today" moments. It's all these small things working together reliably that make the Watch Ultra 3 feel so good day to day. Now, another area that's genuinely surprised me on the Apple Watch Ultra 3 is durability. Now, I was really expecting the natural titanium to get scratched super easily on this, but after a couple of months, there really is not a mark on it. I have taken it on a few tough trail runs. There's been rain, there's been the usual knocks you get day to day, but it's held up really well. The Sapphire crystal display is the same story. There's no micro scratches, there's no dulling, just nothing. It feels every bit as tough as the other rugged watches I've used, including the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Water resistance has also been really good. You can take it out in the rain absolutely fine. You can take it into the pool, you can even take it into the shower with you. And if you want to go one step further, you can even dive with it down to 40 meters thanks to its WR100 and EN13319 dive certification. Not something that most people are going to use, but good to know that it's there nonetheless. And I just want to say that despite it being a larger smartwatch, that weight and bulk, you really don't notice it throughout the day. And I also think that I've been bashing it against door frames and other furniture much less than I do with my Galaxy Watch Ultra. Overall, durability is certainly one of the Apple Watch Ultra 3's strongest features. It definitely looks more delicate than other smartwatches, but it's certainly not the case. It's built to last, and it absolutely has. Now, arguably one of the most important features on a smartwatch is the fitness and health tracking, and I gotta say the Ultra 3 has really gone ahead and impressed me again. I've spent a lot of time testing the Galaxy Watch Ultra across several years now, so I'm gonna use that as my baseline, and I gotta say the heart rate accuracy has been pretty excellent. I'm also a very keen runner, so I know my heart rate zones really well, and I took both watches out for a 10K run at the same time, and both the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Ultra 3 were pretty much bang on the whole run and weren't even a beat out in some cases. GPS performance has also been just as solid. It locks on quickly, it tracks routes accurately, and pace updates feel really nice and smooth and consistent without any weird jumps or dropouts. It's not particularly doing anything revolutionary in my eyes, but it's definitely smooth, it's stable and reliable, and exactly what you need for everyday workouts. Now, there is one area where I think the Apple Watch Ultra 3 could do with a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of improvement, and that's sleep tracking. So the Apple Watch Ultra 3, much like a lot of other smartwatches that I've tried, especially the Galaxy Watch Ultra, tends to over-report my sleep. It says that I'm actually asleep when I was just simply lying still. I always caveat this with that I don't really think that we can blame a smartwatch for not knowing the difference between you staying very still and actually being asleep, but it's definitely a problem across a lot of other smartwatches as well. So yeah, I guess we can't really pin this on Apple, but it's also something that does need to be worked on. There are other health features though, like your ECG, your blood pressure, and then the new hypertension notifications. Really great feature. I just love it when brands add in new ways to track your health. From the demos I've seen, they seem to work really well, but obviously I can't test it because I don't have hypertension, but I definitely recommend turning this feature on. And I'd also point out that it's yet another feature that kind of gives the Apple Watch Ultra 3 an edge over things like Garmin, for example. My only real gripe is actually the workout UI. Yes, it looked absolutely stunning, but sometimes I prefer clarity over aesthetics. Still though, actual tracking accuracy across the board seems to be spot on. Now, unsurprisingly, one of the Apple Watch Ultra 3's other strongest features is its display. This year it goes all the way up to 3000 nits. That's a 1000 nit increase over the last version, and I think that it's perfect. It's definitely bright enough outside. There's very few moments where I'm squinting at the screen. I really do think that we've hit the sweet spot there. If we go any brighter, you might be at risk of wasting battery life you really don't need to be wasting. This year, there has been another update that's noteworthy. Apple have also subtly increased the usable display area on the Watch Ultra 3 and is now even more viewable from other angles. Colors look really rich, text is crisp, and overall the clarity really adds to that premium feel. The always on display looks fantastic too, and that can drop as low as 1 nit at nighttime, so it's not too distracting and it's not going to blow you away if you do decide to check your watch in the middle of the night. Other than that, there's nothing dramatically new in terms of resolution or size, but the jump in brightness combined with the smoothness of WatchOS really does make this one of the best smartwatch displays that I've ever seen, or at the very least, the best feeling smartwatch display. One thing that does hold the Apple Watch Ultra 3 back though is compatibility. Obviously, it's iPhone only, and that alone, if we're being honest, is going to rule it out for a lot of people. If you're on Android or even think you might switch, it just simply is not an option. As for value, it's definitely a premium product at a premium price. You're paying for that build quality, the display, the software polish, and that it just works experience that Apple is quite well known for. You're not getting multi-day Garmin level battery life, and you're not getting the flexibility of something like a Galaxy Watch Ultra, but what you are getting is one of the best all-round, most polished smartwatch experiences that you can get on the market today. So with that all in mind, should you buy an Apple Watch Ultra 3? Well, if you're an iPhone user who wants the most premium, most refined, most polished smartwatch that Apple makes, then yeah, I've got to say, honestly, it's fantastic. The durability is brilliant, the display is one of the best I've ever used, and the whole experience just feels incredibly well thought out and refined, to the point, as a lifelong Android user, it almost turned me. Almost. The reason it didn't, the price is pretty tough for someone who might have considered switching the whole ecosystem. Value-wise, I gotta say I do think the regular Apple Watch might be a better option for a lot of people. And of course, if battery life is one of your absolute top priorities, or you're not in the Apple ecosystem, then definitely something like a Garmin or Samsung might actually serve you better. One of the best things about the Apple Watch Ultra 3 is the endless customization options you get with third-party watch faces and third-party straps. So if you really want to level up the look of your Apple Watch Ultra 3, check out my video on the best watch faces for the Apple Watch Ultra 3 in the top corner now. See you in the next one.